Welcome back, folks, for iteration 3 of this little tutorial series. I'm sorry I had to stop the last one abruptly. I'm limited to 15 minutes, which is probably a good thing. What we left with last time was the walls of the house drawn in 3D. Again, I like to draw on layer 0. Once I'm done drawing something, I'll select those objects and turn them to the layer I want them on. I keep all my 3D layers with a 3D prefix with a dash. It lets me turn things on and off quick. I'm going to change this to 3D wall. Now I didn't get everything there, so I'm going to actually match props and hit these last two objects. So the two quick first things are usually drawing the walls and the roof. Now some houses are way more complicated than this, and this step could take longer. But generally drawing the railings and decks and posts and all the details is what takes the time. So I'm going to try to get through this quick. There's my extra rectangle I see. I want to get rid of that. I like clean geometry. I don't want any extra things. Once I'm done with something, I erase it or save it somewhere if I think I'll need it again. So the thing I want to do now is draw the roofs. I'm going to pick the easy roof to start with. I'm going to start with the back roof. So I'm going to tilt up to my rear view, and then I'm going to go to my third isometric view. Now my working plane is up on the back of the house. Again, sometimes you won't see a roof on the back, but I'll draw all the general roof shapes and bump outs of the house, even if I don't draw some detail on the back. If this rendering is going to be from the front, I'm not going to draw all the window openings in the back, but I will put the roof on. What I don't want is the sunlight streaming through the house coming out the front windows. So a closed box for the rendering is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and put on this roof, which I will see from the front, by tracing the roof profile with the polyline. I've got some snaps on. Again, I want to stick to the main roof for this one. And I'm going to hit C for close. So now I've got a polyline. That's the profile of the roof. While I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and draw the polyline of this little bump out. Now I'm going to go back to the main house. I know it intersects there. Here, 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 and close. I'm going to take the first polyline I made and actually extrude it. I don't want to go to the edge of the wall because I know there's an overhang, so I'm going to use the elevation as a reference and pick the end point. So it extruded it that far. Anytime you extrude a shape, it's sort of a smart shape in that you can go edit the nodes. Until you slice it or union it or do some solid modeling operation, then it becomes kind of a dumb solid block. So what I'm going to do is slice this roof on my XY axis. I know it stops at this wall, so I'm going to pick that wall, and I'm going to pick the side I want to keep. If I do this in 3D, great, that roof's done, but I still need to do this little roof while I'm there. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude that polyline, use my elevation as a reference, and without even looking at it, I'm going to slice. I'm going to type L for my last object. We lock up here. What's going on? Let me escape and try that again. I'm going to slice this. I'm going to type my XY for my XY plane. I'm going to use my elevation for a reference and pick the side I want to keep. Now when I go look at this, bam, it looks great. However, the geometry is sort of intersecting this geometry. So what I'm going to do is use my union command, which takes two solids and makes them one, whether they're connected or not. Looks funny, but if I view it in 3D and zoom, I'm going to pull back and kind of zoom around, it looks right. Great. Back roof is done. We'll put shingles on it later. Bear in mind when you're creating things in AutoCAD, and right now I'm going to take this, since that part is done, I'm going to change it to the 3D roof layer. Everything you do later down the road for rendering's sake is generally you want to work with each layer as one material. So this roof will eventually be white, so I'll need some dark shingles on top or it'll look really funny. So I'll create those later. But right now I'm just doing the shell. So I see, actually I'm going to go ahead and orbit back to my back elevation. This roof profile, it's hard to tell, but this actually peaks right up here. I'm going to go back to my wireframe view. if I draw a line and I pick, there's a peak there. So I'm going to actually start there and draw the profile of this entire roof. And I'm going to C for close it. Then what I'm going to do is extrude that. Whoops, I accidentally drew lines. Let me go ahead and do a P edit. Yes, join these things, and C for close. Polylines are interesting because they, I don't know if they're interesting, but they only work in a 2D plane. So the nice part is if I pick, when I pick my back view and I start drawing a line, it looks like it's near the house, but I guarantee that that's near the 0 axis. So if I start to orbit, you can see it's way out here. You want to get in the habit of making sure your UCS is right, and then your first line you draw and you make sure you use a snap. Once you snap to that elevation in your Z plane, you're locked there with the polyline. So I could draw wherever and you can see it's flat to the elevation. Anyway, I've got my closed polyline. You always want to make sure you're closed. If you draw a polyline, let's see if this works. And I'm just picking there and hitting enter. If I extrude that, that wasn't a good example. If you don't make sure they're closed, sometimes they'll create 3D faces, which are worthless to me. So I'm going to erase that thing. Now I'm going to extrude this roof. Again, I'm going to orbit in my command and use the elevation as a, oh shoot, that was the wrong roof. I'm not thinking. So I undid that. I'm going to extrude this roof to the end of the upper roof. Now in this elevation, again, the roof jogs. I'm actually going to trim it to the furthest jog for now. So I'm going to slice it on my XY plane. Whoop, XY. And I'm going to use my furthest projection, and I'm going to keep this side. So now you can see the roof is about right, although it should set back a little there. So you could do this 10 different ways. What I'm going to do in this case is slice this object. And you can see my XY, my Z is going back. I'm still working on my back. I'd like to maybe change that to the front. I'm going to hit my front cube, my isometric. Now my UCS looks, it's not reversed. When you start reversing it, it just makes it tougher later. So I'm going to slice that big roof object, and I'm going to use my front elevation. I'm going to slice it here because back here I'm going to shove it back. Here I'm going to leave it the same. So I'm going to slice it on my YZ axis, and I'm going to say B for keep both sides. Now when I go back here, there's a line down here. So I'm going to use another slice, and I'm going to use this elevation as a reference. I'm going to slice this last roof on my XY axis, and I'm going to pick this inner roof. And I'm going to say just keep this side. Now watch it. Bam, I've got the roof, the two halves. If I look at it in 3D, you know, it looks right. So what I'm going to actually do is union those two things together. Now if I look at it, and I should have union, I'm going to undo here. And then I'm going to go into my wireframe view. You see how you have a seam here. You don't want those seams. So I'm going to union these two objects back together. And that's my roof. I'm going to go ahead and match properties from that to that. And it looks like I did that little roof over there. So basically, I want to create the shell of the building. I don't worry about, in the first step, I don't worry about decks and stone and trim and windows and all that. So yeah, I'm going to cut this, let's see, I'm going to cut this tutorial off because I feel like we've gotten, you know, the basic shell down, and from there we want to build on. No, I'll go ahead and continue. I'll do this. There's a piece of wall. It's going to look funny because I'm going to build this porch wall that's going to be out here. And I'm going to build these roofs as well while I'm in here. I've got 5.5 more minutes left, so I think we can do that. Again, so I'm working right now. I'm already on the front elevation. I'm going to draw this piece of wall. Again, this isn't true to what the roof and the wall would be in the actual framing, but for 3D sake, it works just fine. I'm going to go ahead and draw the profile of this roof. Now it looks like they have an extra piece of trim coming down here. I'll deal with trim later. So I'm going to just draw the main roof profile to here. And what did I just do? Erase what I just did. I was just drawing the wall again. Draw the roof. So now I've got the wall and I've got the roof. I also have this side roof. So what I'm going to do is look at my right side elevation, which is on the left of the building, by saying view right and then using my second isometric. Now if I zoom in, you see you've got this little pie-shaped piece of wall here. Now again, from looking at the architecture, that roof actually goes further back. So I know the roof is going to go further back than that elevation is showing. I can deal with that now, or I can deal with it later. For now, I'm just going to draw the wall profile. Again, I don't want to include the beam. I'll draw that later. So there's my wall profile, and here's my roof profile. Again, it's going to have to go back further on this side of the jog before it meets up with this gable. But I'm going to extrude that wall out first. Again, I just, walls, roofs. Looks like that wall's flush with this with the side wall, so I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go ahead and slice that, and my XY axis. I'm going to use my inner side of the side wall to give it that thickness and keep just the outside. So now I'm left with a little chunk here. That'll be perfect. That'll close it up visually. It'll look great. That could be solid all the way under the thing. You could do it 8 different ways. Now I'm going to create this front wall. Again, I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to assume that that front wall is flush with the beam, I guess. Yeah, we'll do that. So I'm going to use the front of the beam here as my reference and extrude it to there. Now in this case, I don't have a good reference drawing to slice that 6 inches thick. So what I'm going to do to make it 6 inches thick is to copy this solid object back 6 inches. I'm just going to type 6. Now I'm going to subtract from the original, the one I just made, and I'm left with that piece of front wall. Match properties, because I'm not working on it anymore. Get it, white is what I'm dealing with. Next, I think I'll start with the bigger part of the roof, so I'm going to extrude this roof out. Again, use the elevation as a reference to the distance. And for now, I'm going to slice this roof. You can see that roof intersects both roofs, but I want it going all the way back to the furthest roof. Now my UCS is on the side right now, but I can still go ahead and slice. I just have to be conscious and say I'm going to slice this time on my XY axis at the front of the wall and keep this half. So again, now this looks correct. I like the geometry not to intersect on the major items. So what I'm going to do is change my UCS back to flat earth, I call it, which is, my ground plane, or my first floor level. And what I'm going to do is draw a rectangle using this corner point just way far out away. I'm going to extrude that through that roof I just made and subtract it out of there. Again, you don't necessarily have to do that, but I like the geometry to be neat. It just makes things easier later. I'm going to go ahead and match the properties to our upper roof. Now we need this side piece of roof. I've got 1 minute. Let's see if we can do it. Here's my side roof. I'm going to extrude it, use my elevation as a reference. I think I clicked it. Oh, nope. I'm going to actually can click this little node and drag it. It stays planar or going in the same direction, and use this as a reference. Now it's out where it needs to be. Now I want to slice it. I want to slice it a couple different ways. At this point, the fascias, if I look at it solid, they meet up. I want to kind of slice it once. Slice on my YZ plane. I'm going to use this roof, and I'm going to say keep both sides. Now this piece wants to not go through this main roof. So what I'm going to do is slice it. Oh, I'm going to have to finish this next time.